Time is running out for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to put together a new coalition government. He has until midnight to gain the support he needs or risk losing power. But Netanyahu has struggled to drum up parliamentary support since the March 23rd elections, which ended in deadlock for the fourth time in 2 years. Joining us now to talk more about this is CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams. Hi, Holly. So what are the biggest challenges that Mr. Netanyahu is facing in trying to establish a coalition government?
Well, it's an enormous challenge, really. Netanyahu's party, Likud, won the most seats in the election back in March, but they only won 30 seats out of a possible 120 in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, so a long way short of a majority. So now Netanyahu is in the situation where he needs to somehow patch together, stitch together a coalition out of a whole bunch of quite small parties in Israel, most of which only hold a few seats apiece. And it's not really very surprising that so far he hasn't managed to do so. First of all, Netanyahu is politically weakened by a corruption scandal that's now become a corruption trial. He is the first ever serving Israeli Prime Minister to stand trial. And he's been charged with bribery and fraud, charges that he denies. Also, Israeli politics are deeply fractured, and the parties that he needs to somehow bring together are divided and in some cases diametrically opposed. You have his right-wing party, a rival right-wing party, a far right-wing religious party, and then also maybe an Islamist party. None of them like each other very much, and some of them despise each other. Now, sometimes Netanyahu is referred to as a magician in Israel, and the idea is that, metaphorically, he manages to pull rabbits out of hats politically at the last minute to solve problems and impasses. But it is difficult to see in this situation how even Netanyahu can come up with a solution.
So what happens next, Holly, if Netanyahu is unable to gain the support he needs for a majority coalition? What would this mean for both Israel and the region?
Well, for Israel, it's a continuation of this political stagnation. Remember, this is the fourth election in the country in 2 years. All of them have ended in stalemate and political deadlock. Obviously, that's not healthy in any country or especially any democracy. For the wider region, that deadlock could potentially contribute to instability. Obviously, Israel has enemies in the region. They may perceive Israel as being politically rudderless at this moment. And instability in a volatile region like the Middle East is obviously potentially very dangerous.
And so what options are left, if any, for Netanyahu to keep power? And if he simply is unable to form this coalition that he needs, will there be yet another election?
Well, yeah, there could be. So Netanyahu can ask for another sort of 2-week extension from the president, Rivero, to try and form a coalition. But we don't know if the president at this point will give him a 2-week extension. Alternatively, the president could ask the leader of another party, give the leader of another party an opportunity to form a coalition. For instance, Yair Lapid, who's the leader of the centrist Yesh Atid party. If that doesn't work, the president could throw it back to Israel's parliament and essentially say, you select a prime minister and then we'll see if they can form a coalition. And if all of those things fail, then yes, Israelis could be headed back to the polls once again for yet another election.
A lot still up in the air. All right. Well, Holly Williams, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.